to finish. They were like being in the playoff scenario. String, you having it up just a bit. Able to see the nice transition bases, getting the team, like the dream team. Except the 76ers any point in his career. I'm going to go with working together as a well-oiled finish. They were like, they keep this momentum going. At the same time, I just can't wait for the chance to do, dunk it and either, that's. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 for 6. We're back in action today. In honor of college football week 0, we're going to get down the swing of things, ladies and gentlemen. A nice quick program because we got some college football today at 1:20 Eastern, Nebraska versus Illinois for today. So I'll try to get through our program relatively quickly so y'all can enjoy this college football week coming up, week 0. In the grand scheme of things. But let's get down to business, ladies and gentlemen. And as I did hint about, the first game of the day, it's going to coin off our 6 for 6 to start off today, ladies and gentlemen. So to start us off, 6 for 6, we have Nebraska versus Illinois. A great way to kick off the college football season. Some Big Ten action, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited for it. Can't wait to see what these two athletes, these two teams bring to the table. I know Nebraska's kind of a little bit of a hot seat with the last 2 seasons, doing poorly. Illinois, lower pack of the Big Ten West, not too great either. But hey, this is a great way to get some revival, get things underway, and let's see how this ends up going. But obviously, I made a little typo right there. This is 10:20 a.m. Pacific time for those who are on the West Coast. But let me give you some statistics that was going to end up happening according to ESPN. They have Nebraska ending up favored to win this matchup with a 64.5% chance. So that's according to ESPN, ladies and gentlemen. So, that is that with that. So let's move on to our next game on 6 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. Our next game is going to be something interesting. I personally am excited for it. So let's show you it off. Temple Rutgers. I like this. Again, I like the group of 5 getting some action, some love in this mix-up and matchup type of competition. Rutgers is not big in the Big Ten. Obviously, if you go outside, if you put them in another conference, like in a group of 5, they would do fairly well. Big Ten is just not their conference. There's just a lot of good teams in Big Ten that bring 4- and 5-star recruits to their campus, and Rutgers just doesn't do that. They're at the bottom of the Big Ten in most years in the Big Ten East. But when you flip the script and look at Temple, they're like in the middle pack of the American Conference, gives them, the American Conference teams a run for their money. So this is going to be, something interesting. A team like Rutgers, can compete in the American Conference and do fairly well. So it's definitely going to give Temple, a good check where they're at in the season. Obviously, how ESPN, views this matchup, they're going to say Rutgers is going to win it with an 81% chance. I personally don't think it's going to be that easy. I think, Temple is going to give Rutgers a run for their money. It's going to be interesting, but Rutgers, like we saw when they played Ohio State last year, ran a lot of trick plays, something unorthodox Ohio State really ever saw in the team, put up points on Ohio State, and we're like saying, whoa, why is Rutgers dropping 20, 30 points on Ohio State? Because Rutgers was doing trick plays and unorthodox stuff. So I don't want to count Rutgers out, but they have the talent to do trick plays, but I think they're probably going to do something more on the orthodox line of things, ladies and gentlemen. But the time for this game is 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN on September 2nd. So tune in. Make sure you mark your calendars for that event. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, that we have, before I go to our number 4 pick, ladies and gentlemen, we have to, remind you that if you have games that you recommend for any sporting events, please put them in our comment section. I'll be happy to, read them off and, so more fans can see what good sporting events coming up. I may have forgot other sporting events. So if you have sporting events that you want me to talk about on my 6 for 6 and games that I left out that should be on the list, feel free to put them in the comments section. I'll be, happy to read them off. But, we'll go into our number 4 selection. Our number 4 selection, we got to give some love and respect to the historically black colleges in college football. So we got Alcorn State and NC Central tonight. First, national television game to really get this underway. I'm excited to see this as this happens and develop for these two schools and two programs. I like to see where, this is at. Obviously, it's going to be a national television on ESPN. So if you want to see some historically black colleges in action, this is prime time on national television. So it's today at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. So give these schools some love and all that stuff. Now let's go into a quick recap for all of our fans and viewers who are tuning in for us to, jump in to where we are. Like I said, we have Nebraska and Illinois. ESPN has Nebraska as the favorite in this matchup with a 64.5% chance of winning it. Next up, we have Rutgers and Temple on September 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. This game has Rutgers favorite to win according to ESPN by 81%. But like I said, I think Temple is going to give, Rutgers a run for the money. But obviously, Rutgers has got to represent the Big Ten and continue to try to show why, Big Ten is still dominant. They can rule outside the conference, but inside Big Ten play, Rutgers needs to step up in general. It's like people say, they kind of like the laughing stock of the Big Ten. But I know, once they get some of these good five-star recruits, I think they can probably maybe turn that program around. Could be like a Northwestern type of scenario. It's just the Big Ten East is just so stacked because you have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State in that mix-up. It's just a heavy conference to be on the Eastern Conference. It's like it is tough for a team that doesn't bring in those high talents to be able to compete with those types of schools. Number 4, historically black colleges are playing tonight on national television, so give them some love and tune in. I know they show the bands at halftime. It's going to be a treat to see. Those are some pretty good bands, and I love to see those, talents that they have at these schools. And hey, it's tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Definitely something worthwhile. Ladies and gentlemen, now we're getting to the top 3 of honoring our college football season. These top 3 games are the games that are the most pressured this week. Obviously, I have not put Ohio State on this list against Minnesota. I think Ohio State would just dominate that game. I don't think it would be fun to watch. Maybe the first 2 quarters to see what Ohio State has to offer. But after that, I think Ohio State would win that game. So I wouldn't put it on my 6 for 6. But maybe in future weeks to come, Ohio State will be on this list, but not for week 0. I think there's a lot of, I could say, better matchups that are more evenly matched that are going to really bring in people's attention to college football to see how the season goes up. But I think number 3 game is definitely something for you to watch. It's Boise State versus UCF, ladies and gentlemen. The 2 top, group of 5 schools going at it. Love the, interaction between these 2 schools and their dominance in this factor. Let me tell you that, UCF has been dominant in the American Conference for the last, 4 seasons, and they continue to be impressive to this day. Hey, in 2015, they lost every game, and then they turned it around 2 seasons later to be undefeated UCF in that, that gap. And now they, can try and, continue to make a presence in that conference. And also in the Mountain West with Boise State, they've been dominant in their conference as well, running the table. This is definitely 2 solid matchups. Like I said, this could be like if the group of 5 had their own playoff bracket. This is a good matchup to really see what that would look like if they couldn't ever get into the playoff expansion in future years to come. I think, the group of 5 matchup right here is key, and this is why it's number 3. Though ESPN has UCF winning this game with a favorite of 76.1%, I think it's going to be evenly matched. It's definitely going to be a game that's probably going to be like 35-31 type of score. In some type, it's going to be a lot of defense, but there's going to be a lot of key turnovers that are really going to establish how this game is going to unfold, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to remind you that this game is on September 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, is our number 2. Number 2 is Michigan State versus Northwestern on September 3rd on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Some more Big Ten action, ladies and gentlemen. Big Ten has really been putting some games out this week, so I didn't want to go too Big Ten heavy. I was trying to do my best to bring in the group of 5 and all the schools that were playing this week to say this is what games that you should try to be tuning into and trying to look at, because these are the games that are really going to be exciting, on your toes, on your feet, coming down to the wire late in the fourth quarter where a team needs to make a big play. And these are the games that people remember versus games that turn into blowouts and you kind of don't lose the conversation. The games that are close-knit like this is going to be something that we keep our close eye on. And like I said, putting in this game in perspective, ESPN actually has Northwestern winning this football game. They're favored to win it by 59.8% to win this football game, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, like we all know, Northwestern was able to control Ohio State in the first half of the Big Ten championship game. The question is, can they continue this dominance and just, try to control the Big Ten West? The Big Ten West is pretty evenly matched between the teams. We've seen different teams in the Big Ten championship constantly with them, though they haven't won it. It just shows that they're all pretty balanced, that any of these teams can beat each other to, get to the Big Ten championship, like Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa, Northwestern, all could do it. But it's just like, can you have like a dominant like Ohio State where you see a team that's constantly there? Like Wisconsin is like that team. They're there. They will be, a team that gets, 10 wins or 9 wins, depending on the year, what happens. But that's what, these programs in the Big Ten and West really are. They're really teams that have good, they lose those key critical games to the teams that are ranked in the top 10. But most of the time, they can compete with those teams and give them the run for their money. They're not like teams that, see, like I would say they're second-tier teams in the Big Ten and the rest of the college football world in dominance-wise. But, hey, they give teams a lot of, problems, headaches, and there are a lot of trap games with these second-tier teams. And that's where I end up putting it. But before I reveal my number one, I will do a quick recap for all those who are going to tune in later in our program, just to see where we're all at in that sense. So number 6, we have Nebraska versus Illinois. They have Nebraska winning it with a 64.5% chance of winning this game. So that's going to go towards Nebraska. We have Rutgers with an 81%. Next up, sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. We have Rutgers versus Temple at September 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. They have Rutgers winning with an 81% chance of winning this football game, but we'll see what happens on September 2nd, ladies and gentlemen. See if, Rutgers dominates, or are we going to get a barn burner that comes down to the end, comes down to the wire. Next up, we got some historically black colleges playing tonight on national television. Alcorn State versus NC Central at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Definitely going to be a great game to see what the historically black colleges have to offer and all the great talent that these schools produce there. Next up, we got the big group of 5 matchup of this week. Boise State versus UCF at September 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Like I said, this is a group of 5 showdown. If there was a group of 5 playoff bracket, we would see these two teams be in it for sure, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of those games that you cannot miss. This is a game that really turns the tide I wouldn't say turns the tide, but it shows what the group of 5 really can do against each other, how competitive these programs are. Though we've seen like UCF, Memphis, and other groups of 5, give the Power 5 some issues like Auburn, Georgia with Cincinnati, though. Like I said, these schools can compete, though they can't really run the table. They can give those schools a little bit of a headache. It's not an easy feat, an easy task, but obviously they can't, hang with the top 4 schools in the world in the college football world. But hey, they can give some schools a run for their money, depending how those schools, those big schools try to treat these group of 5 schools. Like, you can't sleep on the group of 5. Like, they'll come out swinging, punch you in the mouth, and really show you what a group of 5 school has to offer. And like, it can catch a big school by surprise in an early game. And like the first quarter, it's a close game, and the big school has to show why they're the powerful school. And if they don't do that, it's going to be a long football game for those schools. But this is a good way to see what the group of 5 schools have to offer. Number 2, ladies and gentlemen, we have Michigan State and Northwestern. Northwestern is a Big Ten Western Conference champs. And yes, they fell short against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. They held Ohio State to pretty much a poor first half in that sense, though Ohio State came back and took care of business in that game, and they just relied on the run game. But it just shows that Northwestern can hang, and this is a great way, a good tune-up against Michigan State, though they had some off years, but overall they're still a good program in the college football world. And things, if they have a good season in that sense, definitely going to be a good game to see coming up next. So it's going to be Michigan State Northwestern on September 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's get down to our number one with the drum roll of the number one game of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, number one, ladies and gentlemen, the number one game of the week. North Carolina, number 10 in the nation, versus Virginia Tech. ACC Showdown on September 3rd, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPN, ladies and gentlemen. This matchup is the game of the week for 6 for 6, ladies and gentlemen. North Carolina had a fantastic season last year. Though they fell a little bit short, I think they had like 3 or 4 losses by the end of the concluding, if we count the bowl game. But North Carolina is going to be that top contender in the ACC, though Clemson's probably going to run away with it. We're going to look for who's the number 2 in that conference. That's the real, conversation that we have to have. I know Virginia Tech can try to, create some mishaps, put some things in some hot water, put, North Carolina on the ropes this game, make them lose their, number 10 preseason ranking. But ladies and gentlemen, ESPN actually has North Carolina winning with a 56.3% chance of winning this football game, ladies and gentlemen. But I think it's going to be like a shootout. This is why I put it as the game of the week. This is the game that you would tune in after work, you get home, and you realize this is the game to watch. Getting ready for your night and evening. This is that game to do it, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it's definitely worthwhile for you to, tune in and watch this game. It's definitely going to be a fun-filled matchup, really good way to kick off the college football season. And it's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday Night Lights at its finest. Come on. You can't get anything better than that. And it sets up for the transition into the college football weekend on that Saturday. There's a lot of good matchups. I didn't put any of those on. That will be on that week's show because I know there's a pretty good matchup that I want to put on there. I'll try to sprinkle it up between 3 college football, 3 NFL, depending how that looks. But I love college football, and there's some pretty good matchups. So I may do a lot of 6 for 6 for college football teams because I'm a big fan of college football, and that's how I like it. And that's how I'm going to try to run this program. Obviously, I'm going to try to filter other sports, but it's football season, ladies and gentlemen. And you can't leave out football season in this. And that's why I kind of honor the college football season, getting that kicked off. So let me do a quick recap before I sign off. If you have any, comments and questions, comment, your favorite game of the weeks that are, that's going to happen in this week in the sports world, and let me know. I'd be happy to read your comments in the future, in future shows. But ladies and gentlemen, let's do a quick recap and get this thing on the road. So, we have number 6, Nebraska versus Illinois. So today at 1:20 p.m. Eastern, 10:20 a.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, we have Rutgers versus Temple on September 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Great solid matchup here, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely something to tune in to watch. Now we got some historically backed colleges playing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Alcorn State versus NC Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Definitely going to be a great matchup to see. Definitely tuning in. Great national television for these 2 athletic programs, so it's going to be fun to watch. Next up, we got Boise State versus UCF, ladies and gentlemen. The game of the group of 5 I like to see. That's going to be really interesting this week on September 2nd. So definitely going to be a fun-filled matchup. I'll tune in to watch that game and see how that really unfolds. Maybe do a recap of a few of these games to elongate the program. But like I said, we're almost at 20 minutes on this program. I don't know all that stuff. There's that good old train, that almost noon o'clock train, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the Midnight Express. That's one of our other programs on the NMI6, ladies and gentlemen. But, we'll continue to advance in that. Sorry about the train noise, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard at time when these trains come rolling through. But let's go on with our number 2. Number 2, we got Michigan State and Northwestern. The Big Ten Western division champs in Northwestern, taking care of business on September 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Definitely going to be a good matchup in the Big Ten. Definitely going to see how Northwestern handles Michigan State, can try to, get back to the Big Ten championship again. We'll see what happens, how the season unfolds for Northwestern. And ladies and gentlemen, like you all know, the number one game of the week, the one that we all know that's going to seem interesting. Number one game of the week, ladies and gentlemen, is North Carolina, number 10 in the nation, versus Virginia Tech on September 3rd, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Like I said, this is a matchup. It's basically this matchup is trying to figure out. It's early in the season and it's week 0 and all that stuff in the college football. But this is trying to figure out who is number 2 behind Clemson, who can dominate their, the ACC, get to the ACC championship game and face Clemson. If you can dethrone Clemson, you're kind of in the college football playoffs if you have a good enough record. Like if you have one loss and you take down Clemson, you could probably get to the college football playoffs. So this is really trying to figure out who is number 2, ladies and gentlemen. That's really about how the ACC is really going to unfold itself. But let me remind you, it's North Carolina, number 10 in the nation, versus Virginia Tech at September 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. I have a comment, but that will do it for our 6 for 6 this week, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read our comments to that. And Kirsty Wilson, thank you for tuning in. She says that North Carolina versus Virginia Tech sounds like a great matchup, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how this really unfolds and all that stuff, ladies and gentlemen. But like I said, college football is underway. Like I said, the first game of the day is Nebraska versus Illinois at 1:20 p.m. Eastern, 10:20 a.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to get your college football season started, that was the first game of the day. So make sure you tune into that if you're in the mood for some college football, ladies and gentlemen. But if you don't have any other questions or comments, I will, bring this program to a close. Thank you all for tuning in for today's program and all the stuff that I, produce on the MI6 Sports Network. It's been, trying to adjust to the work schedule and then trying to do shows and trying to hop on for podcasting and bouncing my time efficiently. But I'll try to make more appearances on shows and get back in the swing of sports podcasting. It's just trying to manage my time well so I don't get, swamped getting off of work trying to, do a show and realize I don't have much time afterwards. So weekends are a little bit better for me, but I'll try to do a few shows during the week days, get myself around being on those different shows on Coast to Coast and on MI6. But, that will do it, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your Sunday with all the sporting events that are happening. Take care. Be safe out there. We'll see you back, here next week. Also tune into the weekly programs of the MI6 Sports Network and all that stuff. And Kirsty Wilson really says it the best on the comments. Just do your best. Yeah, and that's all we can do. And that's all we do at MI6. We just do our best and have a good time here. But that will conclude, today's program, ladies and gentlemen. So see you all next week when college football really gets underway with all the big schools and all the great matchups that we have. And I guarantee you, I may do another college football special to really get it underway. But that will do it for here today, ladies and gentlemen. And take care. See you all next week.